Assalamualaikum. Today I'm going to explain the conflict analysis in Syria, which is the Syrian civil war that started from 2011 until now during the government of Bashar al-Assad. The tools of conflict analysis that will be used is the conflict tree and onion analogy. Firstly, through the conflict tree, I will explain the core, roots, and impacts of the Syrian civil war. Some of the roots of this conflict are the Arab Spring, the authoritative administration of Bashar al-Assad governance, international intervention by foreign countries, and many more. Before the rebellion, the people has always felt unsatisfied and resented their governments for the practice of authoritarianism and violations of human rights since the administration of Bashar's father, Hafiz al-Assad. The unchanging practice of discrimination and authoritarianism after Bashar took over the presidential seat has left the people with endless resentment. The incidence of teenagers being captured by the authority due to the harmless graffiti that condemned the government caused the uproar among the people. Then the Arab Spring became the catalyst that evoked motivation for the Syrian people to stand against the unjust government. Furthermore, the foreign intervention by countries like Iran, Russia, and US had worsened the conflict further. The armament aids and funds from these foreign countries turns the Syrian conflict to be more severe, which is the civil war that happened today, with groups attacking each other with guns and chemical weapons, and the innocent citizens was harmed too. Meanwhile, the core problem of this conflict are the people's resentment towards government authoritative administration that do not care about their own citizens, discrimination towards Sunni because the government officers are mostly Shia Alawites, make the people angry and try to change the government. The effect of discrimination is unemployment and poverty among Sunni and other ethnic people. Therefore, from this problem, the impact that are happening in Syria were the citizens were being revoked of their human rights, which is over 11 million people were affected. Some were killed, had to be refugees, and many of them are displaced in their own country, with basic needs are restricted from them. Even in winter, they do not have the basic necessity to protect themselves from the severe cold. Other than that, the conflict also causes terrorist groups and rebels to be formed. Then they also took in the role to make the innocent lives more miserable. Next, I will explain through the onion analogy the nature of conflict in Syrian civil war. In the outer layer, the position of the Syrian civil war combatants shows that each side seems to demand each other to retreat their forces for the sake of the country and its people. In the government side, they claim that all their military actions were intended to suppress the rebels and terrorists that plundered the country with violence. Thus, it is necessary for them to resort to also use violence on them. Meanwhile, the rebel also claims that their violent actions were righteous and justified in order to overthrow their government that hardly care about its own people. Meanwhile, in the second layer, we can see through the actions and brutality that they exhibit during the conflicts shows that their real objectives is for the political power in order to regulate the country of its vast economic resources. However, the core layer showed the need of combatants, which refers to what the conflict participants deserve and should get instead of what they want. This conflict, it is quite apparent on what the crucial needs of the Syrian people is, which obviously the rights for a democratic government and a chance to change their own government through democratic election process. The government officials that should be elected cannot be among those who discriminates the people based on their ethnicities, as it can bring more problem even after the conflict subsided in the future. Therefore, by analyzing the conflict, the process for finding resolution will be more efficient. And that is all from me. Thank you.